Today we are going to plant some grocery store green onion in my indoor garden area. I already planted one of these a few days ago, but I'm gonna go ahead, cut this up and plant the rest. Welcome to week 4 of my indoor food gardening journey. So when I'm doing this, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it, but I typically cut the onions about here. So you've got your root on there and a little bit still of the actual onion. You don't want to cut too close to the bottom. I mean, it might work, but I have done this outside many times, and typically this is about the distance that I cut from the onion to the root. So this is the pot where I'm going to be planting my green onions. You can see this one I planted, I'm going to say this was like 4 days ago when I planted the one right here. It is just starting to grow now. And I have done some renovations to this pot. If you recall, in previous videos, there was a lot of leggy lettuce in here, still alive. I would say we've got 3 or 4 left and a random bulb. I don't believe this is onion. It's possible, but I think it's a flower bulb. I did use a little bit of soil from my garden outside, and I think it is sprouting. I pulled one out already. Well, I pulled the greens off of one. I think this is a different one. Don't know what it is, but for now it can stay. So we're gonna pop these in the ground. Oh my goodness. I am talking like I'm outside, even though I'm inside. Kind of weird. So let's just, using my finger, make a little hole, stick in the onion. And this, I believe, is going to be my green onion planter. I don't have high hopes for the lettuce. If it does okay, it can stay, but it probably will end up in the graveyard like some of my other. Will probably end up in the compost bin like some of my other lettuces have, but we'll keep on seeing how these guys are going to grow. I'm going to do a little basil harvest this morning for my eggs. I have done this quite a few times. I just haven't really shown you. I don't know if this is actually interesting, but I thought, why not put it in the little vegetable herb garden update? So I typically go for the bigger leaves. Sometimes I take smaller leaves, and I try to take it from all of my plants. So I'm not going too hard on any particular basil plant, but the bigger plants really are where I get most of my leaves from when my harvesting is happening. But the more you harvest on a basil plant, the more it's going to produce. So don't be afraid to give your plants a pretty vigorous harvesting. And you can do this frequently. As long as you're giving them adequate water and nutrition, they will continue to give you more and more leaves. I've got my pan all heated up with olive oil. Yes, I know olive oil isn't something you're supposed to heat too high, but I sometimes do that anyways. So I'm just going to put my basil onto the frying pan with some green onion. And this is going to be my scrambled egg dish this morning. Moving into the next container, we have a few leggy lettuces. They are still alive, and that is what counts. Not looking super hot. I almost wonder, that is so leggy. I almost thought it was a piece of grass, but honestly, that is not grass. That is a lettuce seedling. Do I have high hopes? Not really, but that's okay. They're alive, and we're gonna let them keep growing. Moving right along, let's check out week 4 of my bug trap. This is looking super ugly. We're gonna change it. Okay, we have a fresh bug trap all set up. I'm super curious by next week's update how many bugs it will have caught. Hopefully not as many as the last 3 weeks. I don't think there's actually that many bugs flying around anymore. There is the odd one, but time will tell how many are really around. Morning with my basil, I did a little harvest, and after my harvest, this is what is left. Still looking absolutely awesome over here. One thing I do that I haven't really talked about, I don't think, on this channel is so simple, but I rotate my pots every day, sometimes multiple times a day, so that the leaves are facing different directions. I think that helps them be less leggy. I don't know, but I like to do that. This way in the windowsill, this is where some of my leggy lettuce seedlings have disappeared to that you may have seen in other pots. A lot of them died, and what was left I tried to save. Put them in a new starter tray, fresh soil, and this is how they're looking, still leggy. The difference now is they are in the windowsill, and I have not put lettuce in the windowsill yet. Honestly, I think they're getting a little too much light, but for now I'm going to leave it and see how they do. Definitely an experiment, but I've had not a lot of success with lettuce so far, so I'm trying all kinds of things. Moving right along in the window, we're going to look at some more successful plants. These are some of my bell pepper seedlings, and they are doing awesome. These were planted from a grocery store bell pepper, which you can see in video 1 of this series. And they have exploded with growth, and I do credit my grow lights right here. I took those out either last week or the week before. These are super old from Amazon, and I think that is the reason they have gone crazy growing. There are also a few tomato seedlings in here that I transplanted out from outside in my vegetable garden. Never planted them, but doing a fall cleanup, I found these seedlings and decided I needed to save them. Try growing tomatoes in the house, why not? So over in another seed tray, we've got more bell peppers here and more tomato seedlings. That is how they're doing right now. Tomatoes are slow growing, but they are definitely growing. Moving along, we have some more failures. Yesterday, I was out in my outdoor vegetable garden. I found 2 more tomato seedlings, tried to save them, and honestly, I think they went into shock. I think they died within hours. There's one. This one is clinging to life. Probably gonna pull it out, but we'll repurpose the containers. And this right here, this is my cucumber seedling that I was so worried about in the giant pot. I'll show you. I will show you last week. That cucumber seedling was over here in case you missed the video. I basically emptied these pots. The lettuces died. So there were 2 other cucumber seeds planted. I planted 4. Only 2 have sprouted. He is here, just chilling out. Back to my cucumber seedling. Over here, this is my cucumber seedling we just talked about. It is doing really well in the windowsill. I took a chance and planted it in this little owl planter. And this is quite an experiment because my owl planter does not have a drainage hole. It's not a pot within a pot. It is literally a pretty cover pot. And although I do have a drill, and technically speaking, I could drill a hole in it, I didn't really want to. So I am taking a chance. I am using some pots with no drainage holes. So far, it's looking way better than when it was in the big planter with a drainage hole. So I think so far my experiment has worked. It is putting on a little bit of new growth. You can see one of the true leaves is forming, so that is super awesome. Now I have one more thing to show you before we do a little bit of repotting. That grow bag that started out with grocery store celery I was regrowing that you would have seen in the last video perished. I transplanted a lettuce seedling from outside. Now I did film that, but unfortunately I accidentally deleted it. So this is what I want to show you is going on. Great success. To be real, there's actually 4 seedlings in here. But the one difference with these seedlings that I will talk about is the size. So those were all seedlings I planted from seeds early in the fall out in my vegetable garden. I have got hundreds, if not thousands, of lettuce, bok choys, different mustard greens in the vegetable garden. But the one thing I did differently with these seedlings versus the ones I started inside was I waited until these ones were much larger before I touched them for transplanting. That might have been one of my mistakes I made in my indoor garden, was not giving the seedlings enough time to grow and mature. Not totally sure. I think there were a few mistakes I made with my lettuce seedlings inside. But that being said, since I transplanted these seedlings from outside into this bag, you can see it's been 3 to 4 days. They have exploded in growth, especially the one that is really large in the middle. Probably almost doubled in size since I brought them in. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is happening. Something we haven't talked about is the heat in this room. Right beside this bag is the heater. So pretty close proximity. I'm gonna say that's just maybe 3 to 4 inches away. And it's been really cold here on Vancouver Island in Nanaimo, my hometown. The temperatures overnight on average have been -2 degrees Celsius. I think that is below 30 degrees Fahrenheit. I would have to Google to double check, but I'm trying to learn the Fahrenheit system. I'm gonna guess that's about maybe 28 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe 30. I'm not really sure. I'd have to ask Google. But it's been cold. So the heater has been coming on for quite a few hours, all overnight and into the morning hours. And I'll show you the temperature it's currently at. This is the thermostat for this room, and it is sitting just below 20. So I'm gonna estimate that's about 18 to 19 degrees Celsius. My theory is that this lettuce exploded because of the increased warmth from the heater. Outside, it was getting temperatures of -2, and inside, all of a sudden, it went up to 19 degrees Celsius. So, huge increase in heat, and I think that's why it's doing much better here. I think it's actually getting way less light here than it was outside, and it seems to be doing okay with that. So I believe it is time to do some potting. We are going down into the garage. We are taking this with us, and we are going to pot up some of these bigger bell pepper seedlings. A little bit of my repotting process. This in itself is going to be part of my indoor gardening experiment. I'm using one pot with drainage holes that's going to go into a cover pot. And the rest of my pots for repotting these bell pepper seedlings, these are them over here, none of these have drainage holes. So this could go terribly wrong or terribly right. Time will tell. And I'm going to show you the ingredients I'm going to use for repotting my seedlings. I'm going to be using a mixture of potting soil. This is from Miracle Grow, as well as seed starting mix. And I typically throw in a little bit of kelp meal into my pots. I have found I've had great luck with doing this with seed starting in the past, so it's something I love to do. I'll show you just repotting one of these because I have so many, just to give you an idea of the ratios of potting mix to seed starting mix to fertilizer that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to start with the potting mix, put some of that in the bottom of the container. I'm going for, it looks like, well, I've got half to 3/4. It will definitely compress once the water hits here. I'm going to say a little less than half. I'm using a regular potting mix. Then I'm going to get into my seed starter mix here. The difference, if you're not familiar with these different potting soils and seed starting mixes, is that seed starting mix tends to be much fluffier than the potting mix. This is a much more dense soil mixture. So I like to give it a little mix, get them intertwined, and then we're going to add my kelp meal. So here is the kelp meal. I'm going to take about a half a handful, put it into my pot, mix it around. so it's nice and dispersed into the soil. And now we are going to transplant some of these bell pepper seedlings. This particular cell has 2 in it, so I'm going to aim for removing the larger one, keeping the smaller one in there, and transplanting it without damaging anything. Wish me luck. Okay, that was pretty easy. Nice root system on this bell pepper plant. So we are going to put it right into this pot. I'm just going to stick my finger in so that the root can go as far to the bottom as possible and put this bell pepper plant in the hole. And then I'm going to top with a little bit more of the seed starting mix. Because it is nice and fluffy, I want more of that on the top. And that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of my pots, and I will meet you back in the window. If you've enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future indoor garden updates. We are back in the indoor gardening room, and if you're new here, yes, this is the spare bedroom. It's got all kinds of stuff in here, / storage room and indoor garden area. So I'm going to show you the new homes for my bell pepper plants, for the larger ones. They're actually in a different window. They're actually in a different windowsill, and I am standing on a stool because I'm not very tall. To be completely honest, I forgot these windows were in this room. No joke. It's been close to 2 years since I cleaned the blinds in here, being completely honest. And I actually forgot there were windows on this side of the room. These are really small windows and they do not open. The downside of putting seedlings in this window and another one I'm going to show you is compared to my main growing area over here, let's zoom in, this window with most of my plants gets a lot more light than this small window here where I've put my bell pepper seedlings. That being said, it is still light, and opening these blinds is going to bring a lot more natural light into the whole room. So I'm so glad that I remembered just now that there was 2 more windows in this room. I wish I remembered that sooner. So let's take a quick little look. This is what my seedlings are looking like in their new homes. And we're going to venture over into the other windowsill and check out my other bell pepper seedlings. And yes, we are going to journey on top of this bed because that is the best way to get there. So here they are, my other bell pepper seedlings. This container here is the one with drainage holes. All of the other ones do not have drainage holes. And here's a little bird's eye view of my other growing area in the other window. We're going to take a quick look at what my seed trays look like now. A lot less leafy, but there are plenty of seedlings in here. I have a few empty cells that I may or may not put some new seedlings in. Time will tell. Thank you for watching week 4 of my indoor gardening update. If you are interested in what may be going on in this garden next week, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the update. I hope you have a lovely day, evening, night, wherever you are.